Well, Keir Starmer has formally resigned from office at Downing Street in the UK. During his farewell speech, the outgoing Prime Minister wished success to Andy Burnham, who is tipped to take office. For more on this, we're joined by a member of British Parliament, Dr. Ayub Khan, live from London. Dr. Ayub, thank you for joining us on Asia One. So Andy Burnham is set to become Britain's new Prime Minister. What do you see as the biggest challenges awaiting him on day one?
So first of all, correction, I'm a barrister, not a doctor, but that's probably just a small point. I think some of the biggest challenges for Andy Burnham will be to actually be able to secure the traditional voters that voted for the Labour Party. And so that will, in my view, direct his policies. So the most important first task for Andy Burnham will be to look at the conflicts that are happening on an international platform. We see the situation in Gaza, the West Bank, which is still a critical issue. We see the current attacks on Iran and the Middle East crisis. And I think he has to come out with the values, the true values of the traditional Labour Party, and that is to speak truth. And we know that politicians are often criticized for the hypocrisy. So what Andy Burnham has said in his essentially maiden speech is that we want to win back the voters, and we don't want to be chasing reform and the Conservatives with their right-wing policies. And so if you're going to speak the truth, then you're going to have to call out this attack on Iran, an illegal attack under international law. You have to be absolutely frank that we respect international law, that we want to strengthen the courts, the international courts, and I think that has to be his top priorities. And then we've got issues in terms of the economy. We know that he has made it plain that he will not be seeking additional money. So if we're not borrowing money, then he's got a very fine set of parameters to work within. And so he's going to have to decide whether we continue with the additional funding into the military aspect vis-a-vis supporting local communities across the country, because we know the cost of living is impacting every British family, and so it's going to be challenging.
Yes, well, he has said, Britain hasn't been working and has promised to govern differently. What practical changes do you think we can expect to see under his leadership?
Well, first of all, we're going to see, I suspect, a change of his cabinet, and ultimately, we know that in the UK, there are serious issues within, for example, people with disabilities, people that find it difficult to work. We know that the previous administration under Keir Starmer was seeking to cut a substantial amount of money, PIP as they call it here, and there was a massive revolt, and backbenchers were upset because quite clearly they know that on the ground there are many people that rely on the support given by the state, not because they don't want to work, it's because their medical conditions impact them. And that is a substantial amount of budget which has to be decided. It's £5 billion, but over the next 4 to 5 years, it's forecast an additional 30 billion, which is an enormous amount of money. Now, Andy Burnham must make tough choices. And I think if he wants to show clear leadership, then he's going to have to make tough choices. And I suspect, we none of us want war. We in the United Kingdom, we have an alliance with the NATO, and we are a nuclear arms nation. We have got sufficient deterrence, and he will have to ultimately make a decision where to cut the funding, whether he continues with the previous administration or whether he makes changes. And I think that allows him to remain within fiscal discipline, but changes priorities. And it'll be interesting to see what he does.
Do you think he has what it takes to curb the momentum around Nigel Farage?
Well, the recent polls seem to suggest that the British public is supporting Andy Burnham. We've seen Labour for the first time do well in polls against Reform. So Reform has lost a significant number of points. I think they're probably touching about 24, 25, and Labour also on 24, 25. And I suppose there's two aspects to this. One is the investigation into Nigel Farage, the £5 million which was donated to him. by a cryptocurrency billionaire, and the fact that he's not come out to explain that in the way the British public would expect responsible politicians to do, that may have impacted the reform polls, and Labour has gained some momentum. So there's a combination of factors, but ultimately, if he deals with the cost of living, people, as I say, families up and down this country are struggling to pay their utility bills, are struggling to pay for food, then that is really where he can gain momentum. But unless he does that, I think he will unfortunately have a very short peak in polls.
Mr. Khan, thank you very much for joining us and for your insights from London there.